All right, so welcome back again. Let me start with a simple example. Now, what we are going to do in today's class is that we will be recreating a logo. So while recreating a logo with the practical approach itself, I will be showing you how you will be using the tools. So I'll be using this specific Twitter, the Twitter logo, so as to say, in order to recreate the same logo. So I'll be selecting Twitter, bringing it into my AI file, and I'll be dropping it here. So you can see that this is an RGB. In RGB, you can't do anything. So therefore, remember, whenever you want to do anything, go with the new file. You can go with any custom size you like. I'll go with this one, and I'll name this as Twitter uh, recreation. All right. And I will be keeping the units as pixels. This is the one which we have set already in our first class, if you remember it. So 1000 by 1000 is the width and height which we have set. And finally, CMYK is the color mode which you want to give. Once you are satisfied with all the settings, press create document and a new document will be created with the same thing. Now we happen to have 3 documents here. If you want to remove these artboards, we call them as artboards. So if you want to remove any one of these artboards here, you can just click this button here, select the artboard, press backspace to delete it. And once it's done, just uncheck this, right? Just select your selection tool and press, you can just bring it in the center. So the best way to do it is by using the the zoom tool. Just select the zoom tool and click anywhere on the screen. It will take you to the center of this image. Okay, so this is where we are right now, the 1000 by 1000 image which we have created. I'll be selecting the image which is here and I'll be dragging it and I'll be dropping it here. You can also do Control C, Control F so as to paste in front and then take that specific section there. Or you can just do what I've done here. So just copy, just select, drag and drop it here. You may observe that the section is here itself, so it automatically generates a layer. You don't need to create a different layer for this. So whenever you are doing that, press, drag, and just drop it here, it automatically creates the same layer. Okay, so this is something which we have done. Now, if you remember from our previous class, we went with the signature, and also, did we go through the signature? Let me just go through which things we have done in our previous class. We went with creating a, I believe that's, yes, we have created a sticker. So that was what we have done in previous class. So in this class, we are going to learn a few more tools. Now, there are certain things before I start. I want you to look at this shape and think what tools can you use in order to create this shape. You can see that this is a curve. Now, the curves can be always be driven by using your pen tool. Pen tool is not the best option all the time. Remember that pen tool is just used to create complicated curves and to create a complicated path. But in Illustrator, whenever you are using, you will have different tools for different circumstances. What do I mean by that? You see that this is a pen tool. Pen tool can be used rather for specific things where there are complex geometry. So if there seems to be a complex geometry, I will be using my pen tool. If there seems to be less complicated geometry, I can use any other tool I like. Remember, as I told you before, this converts everything into a vector. Even though you're using a brush tool or a pencil tool or a shape tool, whatever you use, it gets converted into path. It doesn't get converted as a, as an image itself. So it doesn't raster, it just converts it into a vector. So that, keeping that thing in mind, you may conclude that with different tools, we can do the same thing. Pen tool, we can do it. Shape tool, you can do it. Line tool, you can do it. Brush tool, you can do it. Pencil tool, you can do it. So all these different tools we have. I will show you in this specific class how you can use pen and brush tool in order to create the same thing. So how do we do it? It's the question. This is how you do it. First, I will be zooming in. All right. You can see that this image is actually a raster image. It's not a vector image. As I'm zooming in, it gets pixelated. This is precisely why we are changing this into a vector now. Now, before I go ahead and change anything in here, there will be a problem. Whenever I'm using my selection tool and trying to move a specific layer on top, it will move this also. So the base image is also getting moved. I don't want to move the base image here. I rather want to just just apply whatever I'm doing on the top image without distorting or changing anything from the back. So without changing anything from the back. So if I have to do that, what do I do is I select the image. Remember that I'm in my recreated page. I'm not in this section where RGB's model is there. I'm in CMYK model. And in this specific section, I'm going to select this image, making sure that its transparency or opacity is brought down. Transparency is more, opacity is less. So I'm setting this opacity down. Why? Because I want to make sure that whatever I draw on this, it gets more contrasted with the background. So therefore I did that. Once it's done, I'll be selecting that specific artboard here and then pressing Control 2 from my keyboard. You can also lock the layer by selecting the layer from here. This is the layer option which you can see. If I click this arrow icon, you can see that this is the image. How do I select the image? In Photoshop, you will just be clicking it. But in here, you need to click this button to select. Now I have selected this image and then I will click this button here to lock the layer. When you press Control 2, it does the same thing. Now you see Control 2, it does the same thing. When I press Control 2, I will write this down in here if you're getting confused. So Control 2 is to lock the layer. You are just locking the layer. So press Control 2 in order to lock the layer. So once you have locked the layer, you can see that an icon comes up in here. That means it's locked. Now I'm not able to move it. Now you can see that even with the selection tool here, I'm not able to move this anywhere. Good. I will be keeping it here itself. And now you see what we are going to do. We are going to recreate the same logo on top. We are just going to trace it. There are two ways of tracing it. One in which we will be using our paintbrush tool. The other in which we can use pencil tool. The other in which you can use pen tool. So these are the three different tools which you will be using for tracing any kind of image. If you happen to trace bit by bit, pencil tool and brush tool are the most favorite and the best optimized tools for you to do that specific thing. If you want to do it in one stretch itself, then pen tool would be the best. I will show you both of them together here. If I'm using the pen tool, you see, I don't need to use my stylus for this. I can directly use my mouse itself. I'm using a trackpad here. So I'll be clicking this point, dragging my point towards the curve. You can see that towards this, the curve is actually bending. So you can see that towards this direction, the arc is bending. And that's why I will be pressing this button, holding it down, and then stretching it towards the curve path, the direction of the curve. You see where the direction of the curve is. It's on the left-hand side. So therefore, I'm dragging it on the top left. And then I'll be clicking this button here and then dragging again in order to create this specific curve. Very well. If you want to cut the curve, you can just click here. It cuts the curve here. Let me just show you that. Now, when you press and hold Alt key, it's not Control. In Photoshop, it's Control. In Illustrator, it's Alt. Press and hold Alt key and then click here to cut the curve. Now you can see that it comes in a straight line again. Now you can just press and drag in order to create one more curve like this. Press Alt key to cut the curve. So you better understand how this is actually working out. I'll show you that to you again. Now, see to it carefully. If you don't understand, please interrupt me and you can shout as well. It's totally fine with me. As long as you are understanding, you can, if you're not understanding, you can do whatever you like. So just let me know if you happen to have, you can just let me know by messaging me on directly in here, or you can rather shout in mic. It will be brought back to my attention. Okay, so I'll be selecting this, pressing my, I'm just stretching this curve towards the direction of where the curve should lie. This is where the curve should lie. That's why I'm just stretching this towards that specific curve. And then I'll be pressing here and dragging again so as to create this kind of a curve here. Press and hold Alt key and then click here in order to cut the path. And then go ahead and do that again. Press, drag. You see that how it's actually looking like? It's you don't need to be precise with the selection. You can directly go with this. Press Alt and then click. It's cutting that. Now you can see that this is the path where I want to stretch this out. So click and drag. If you think that this selection is not actually getting precise, you can see that it's actually filling it as well. So what I'll do is I'll just select the filling and I will set this as none here. Okay. I'll do the same thing for, but I want to give a stroke, so I'll be giving this as a black stroke. Okay, make sure that I'm giving the stroke. I'm selecting the color as black. So now I'm giving a black stroke to it, just so that you can see the outline. Now, if you want to see, now you see, if I'm just pressing this Alt and then clicking here, it will just cut the curve. If I want to select this point, I can press and hold Control key and then click in order to select that specific handle. Now I can just press this and I can move it anywhere I like, if you like. This is the handle where I can press and hold Alt key and I can move this handle in order to modify the curve. Alt is to modify a curve and to cut a curve. Remember this. So I'll just write this down here in order for you to understand better. Alt key is used to cut the path. It's also used to select and move the handle. Right? Control key is to select the point before moving the handle. So you basically get the idea of how it works. Now you see, I'm in this specific curve here. I'll just press Control key, and then from this point, I'm just trying to do the curve now. So let's come to the above section here. I'll be just pressing it and dragging it. And now you see, this is how it looks like. And I'll just keep it like this. You can see that it's a very sharp cut here. You can see. I'll press and hold Alt key, click here in order to cut the point. Press and Control key and select the point here. I'll just cut this point. And you can see that when I press this button here, when I press and hold Control key and then click it, you can see that I can move this around, and I can also stretch both of the handles together like this. So I'm just going to create a smooth looking curve rather than just a like a V shape. Rather than this, I want to create a blunt curve here. So therefore, I'm doing that. Select Alt and then click the handle, and while pressing and holding Alt key, you can just move the handle wherever you like. You can see that this is how it looks like. I'll keep the handle where the curve is moving and then press this section here and move the handle down. So you get the idea of how it's working. So I'll just press this here and I'll move this handle to a bit more down. That's done. Press and hold Alt key and click. Now from here itself, it's starting to move. Press, drag. All right. If you think it's not perfect, you can press and hold Control key and click and move the point itself like this. And then press and hold Alt key and click in order to cut the curve so as to create a sharp turn. Press and drag. You can see that I'm drawing the beak now. Press Alt key and click in order to cut the curve. Again, this is a sharp turn here. Press and Alt key, click in order to cut the curve. Press and drag in order to create the curve. It's going to take a bit time for you to practice this and to work around with this. So it's going to take some time for you to do that. Keep practicing while you're doing so. I'm just going to show you the way here. So you see that the curve, if I imagine a curve here, it's not a straight line curve here. So something is dividing this in here. So that means it's this point, and then from this point to this point, there are two curves attached. I can split this curve here into two parts, 1 and 2. I can also divide this into 3 parts if I like, but it will make things more complicated. So I will be going with only 2 points. Click here, drag. That's the first point which we have created. Again, click and drag in order to create the second point. Now I'll see how this looks like. I can press and hold Alt key and click the handle and move this down in order to create a very perfect looking curve. You can also see that we happen to have this section here, which is actually not perfect. If I just zoom in this part, you can see that it's creating this sharp looking curve. We don't want sharp looking curve. Press this handle and slightly drag it down. Also press Control, bring it out. Press Alt, move it slightly down. Press Control, slightly here. So you don't need to be precise, with the curve here. Make sure that you are just doing it in a precise way. Okay, this is the part where it's get complicated. So I'll just select this. This is too high. Press and drag. Just make sure that it's smooth. If you want, you can, however, remove this point in order to create just one looking curve like this. You can just create a point like that. But I wouldn't recommend you to do that, because then again, you see that for one single curve itself, you can press this point and so you can see that you can just basically create this kind of curve. I need to zoom in at this point. So I'm just going to do this. I need to zoom in at this point. Press and hold Alt key and just slightly drag this down. And minus. Press and hold Alt key and slightly bring this down in order to create this kind of a sharp looking curve here. So this is how the Twitter handle looks like. I'll be pressing Alt key and just bringing it down like so. Just so that it matches it. Once it's done, I can press Control key and just slightly move this down or up or wherever I like. This is better. You don't need to go with precise here. I'm just going one by one, you know. Press and drag. Press Alt, click in order to cut the curve. Press and drag in order to create this shape. Press Alt to cut the curve. Click in order to create the sharp turn. Press Alt again to cut the curve. Press this point, drag, and then press Alt to cut the curve, and then finally this point and just draw it like this. So you have completed the path of this section here. So you can see that your path starts from here, right? That's the path where it starts from, and it ends at this point by revolving all these points and joining in back again. So you have created this path here. Once you have created the path, you can see the path in your layers. If you just click the layer, you can see this is how the path looks like. If I just zoom in, you can see that specific thing more better. So you can see that this is the path which we have created. It shows in a small icon. So that when you have created it, what you will be doing is that you will be going ahead and selecting the specific thing, moving this away from the background so that you can see it individually. So what I do is I'll be selecting my selection tool. You see that when I click the selection tool, it completely selects that area, and you can independently move it anywhere you like this. Press minus key in order to remove it. So this here, you have created the Twitter logo. You have recreated the Twitter logo. And in order to give this specific shape around here, I can do that here. So let's go ahead and recreate the same exact logo. But before I do that, I will remove the background here. So I'll try to create a similar shape at the background, and then I'll try to place this at the center and then remove this completely. For this, I'll be using my rectangle tool here. With the rectangle tool selected, I'll be drawing a box like so, just so that it gets exactly the same as it is. And then I will be just creating the same color thing. So what do I do is I select this color fill, and I select that specific color in order to give that color to it. You can also give the color by just double clicking it here and then choosing the color from here if you like. All right, this is what I have given, the Twitter logo color which I have given. Once I'm satisfied with the color, I'll just press enter, click the selection tool in order to select it. Now, I don't need the stroke for this. You can see that the edges also have a stroke, the black edge it has. So I'll be removing the black edge now by clicking it, selecting the stroke option. If you remember, that's what we have done in our previous class. Select this and select this none in order to remove the the edge black color to it. So once you have removed it, you will be having this sweet looking blue colored patch, and you will also have the Twitter path. So if I want to bring this in front, what you can do is you can just select the layer, select the path, drag and drop it on top of the rectangle. Here I don't want to use this image, therefore I can just click this image so that to uncheck the logo, and then press this eye icon here to hide that specific image. So that image is hidden now. I can press this, bring it, this one, select and bring it at the center here. That's what you have done. And then just give it a different color. If you want to give a white color to this, you can just go ahead and click here and then select the white color click OK, and there you go. We happen to have the Twitter logo. We don't want the edge to be showing, so therefore I'll be clicking this, selecting the stroke, and giving none. Instead of giving any color, I'll click none here so as to create this Twitter logo. Let's go ahead and modify this Twitter logo to look more amazing here. Okay, so we'll go with a bit more higher. So if we want, we can sell this logo to Twitter as well by recreating it. So I'm going to recreate the Twitter logo now. Select the logo, select your gradient option here, and we'll give this Twitter that gradient looking color to it. So we are giving the gradient option to the curve here. We are going to do with the filling as well. So I'm going to do with this. Instead of black, I'll be selecting a silver color here. So I'll be selecting this part and selecting light silver. And here I'll be going with a light silver, but I'm keeping the silver as it is. All right, you can see this is how it looks like. And then we'll be selecting this and also selecting the stroke and giving none. Instead of giving any color, we'll be selecting the stroke and giving none. So this here is looking like a more metallic way. So we'll be selecting the background as well. I'll be going ahead and selecting the background fill. Also giving gradient to it. How do I give it? By clicking this button here. This is the gradient. Double click and choose a different color for the gradient. This is the first color. And this one here is the second color. We'll go with a bit more darker color here. Okay. I'll go with maybe this color, and in here, not this one. So you see that when I double click here, it accidentally created a gradient slider here. If I want to remove this gradient slider key, I can just click this gradient slider key, press the delete button in order to delete it. The next one, I'll be going ahead and putting a lighter symbol here. There you go. Once it's done, I want shadow to be showing up in here. But when you are creating a shadow, it won't look realistic if you just do with the thing which we have done in previous class. If I click this object, go to effect, select stylize, and then click drop shadow, it will look good, but it's actually not the one which I'm looking for. I want to create, a realistic kind of edge shadow within the logo itself. We don't want to, give this logo, we don't want to create a logo in a very uneven manner or unrealistic manner. So we'll go ahead and create a logo in a very realistic manner now. So if you want to create a logo in a realistic manner, what we do is we select the logo and I want to give this a shadow. How do I give a shadow to it? It's very, very simple. What you do is you see that this is a rotation tool. Rotation tool here will allow you to rotate the logo wherever you like. If I want to give a shadow, I must rotate the image slightly so that I can get the same kind of dimension curve here, and then I can give a different color to it. Let me explain. I will select the color, I will select the logo, and I will, from this beak option, I will try to rotate this. From the beak, I will try to rotate. So I'll click this rotation tool and click this anchor point here. What it does now, that you see that the target is set at this position. That means you are holding or you're pinching that area. It's like this. Let me give you one more, let me give you an example for it. This is a cloth in my hand, all right? So this cloth, if I want to rotate this to the left-hand side, I have two options. I can rotate it like this. I can rotate it like this. But if I want to rotate it only in 45 degrees, from this specific point, I can just move this like here. And from this hand itself, from this hand, by the way, I'm wearing a watch. So the watch hand, I can just slightly turn like this. And you can see that from this perspective, it's turning. If I do with this hand now, it's going to rotate with this hand. That means the rotation is being done with two perspectives. One is my watch hand and another one which I don't have a watch. So the watch hand through which it's being rotating, that's called a target point. Target point is perspective through which it rotates. So this here is the same thing. I'm setting the target point here so that from this perspective, the image rotates. Once it's done, I will click this path here and then try to rotate it like so. You can see that it's rotating. All right, you can see this is how it rotated. Before I rotate it, I will press Ctrl C, Ctrl F to paste the same function in front, and then go with the rotation tool, select the path, and then try to rotate this slightly above. Now you will see that you happen to get this realistic looking shadow, which is actually looking quite well. At this position of time, what I will do is I will be selecting this part. I don't want, um, you know, the background image to be showing at this point. Now, you can stop here. If you consider that this is where you should be stopping, you can stop here. But I would not like to stop here. I would rather, there are two tails here, two wings here. The wing looks perfectly fine, but the tail, you see, it looks as if it's two tails. It doesn't look as if it has a shadow to it. It looks as if it has two tails. So what I'm going to do is that I will be selecting the point again, making sure that my rotation tool is on. You see that the point is selected here. With this rotation selected, you can rotate it till where you think it's good. I want to keep this in here like this. Now, once it's done, what I will do is I'll be selecting my selection tool, selecting all the points in here, and you will see that 2 points are being selected. This one and the background one, both are selected. This one, and when I press and hold shift and then click the other one, which is down below, 2 points are getting selected. Okay, let me just select this part as well. I'll zoom in. Yeah, that's happening because I have actually not selected both of them. We can select it from the layers itself. This is the one, press and hold shift key, this is the one. So I'm selecting both of the layers together. Once both of the layers are added, I will be using a special tool here. That tool is called Shape Builder tool. Now you may ask me why I'm using this. Okay, you don't need to, really get to know this, but it's fine. If you can just skip this step, you can just go with the rotation and you can stop there. As for this class, it's too much for it to soak the information, I can understand. But there are actually a lot of syllabus to cover, so that's why I'm going a bit faster. You can review the recording once it's done so that to get this complete idea of how you'll be recreating it. So with the shape builder tool here, what I'm doing is I'm just clicking this edge here so as to create this as a shape. Once this is selected, I'll be using my selection tool to select that specific path. All right, you can see that a new layer is being created. This is the path which is there. I'll uncheck both of these paths and I'll select only the last path which is here. With the last path selected, I can just press down arrow key to bring it down. Now you see, the edge got cut. The edge got cut. You can bring this path on top like this. All right, that means I'm bringing the path on top. That's the cut. And once it's added on top, you will be selecting that, giving a different shade of the color by selecting it and giving a more darker approach to it. So I'll be selecting my gradient tool here, gradient option to be selected. You can also click here, this button, to get the gradient. Once the gradient is selected, you can edit the gradient by clicking here. You'll select the point, change the color by double clicking it. We'll go with dark silver, and this one, I'll go with much darker silver here. So once I have selected it, I'll be using my selection tool again, bringing this part back at this position and slightly, dragging and dropping it at this point. And with this point selected, I will be going ahead and selecting my rotation tool, selecting the anchor point, and moving this to slightly this. So now you see that we happen to have created this sweet looking edge to our Twitter logo. So now this is how we have recreated a Twitter logo, and this is how it looks like, beautiful and easy. If you want to export this, select all of them together, right click and click export selection. With the asset, I'll be exporting it with 8 times higher than what it actually is. And I'll be exporting it on the desktop new folder, logo all right, recreation. Select it and Twitter recreation. Export asset. In order to export this asset, and this is how the image looks like. So that's your new logo. You can see this is how your new logo looks like. Crisp, smooth, and beautiful. If anyone happens to have any doubts, please go ahead and ask me. We are not going to work only on one specific logo here. Yeah, that's true, Ms. Laila. It's when we do the mockup, that's true. So it's similar to that. So what I can, what I can suggest you is that you can't understand this in one sitting itself. You actually have to go and practice this at least 8 hours to be precise. If you want to get well with the pen tool, 8 hours is a must. So that means 2 hours each. Take 4 days to learn this. You will get to know how to use this pen tool. So with that, this is how you have recreated your logo for this specific thing. Okay, so now let's go ahead and recreate one more logo. Now this one more logo which I'll be recreating, I will be using the pen tool a lot. So therefore you understand how you use the pen tool in order to just see how it actually looks like. So therefore what we're gonna do is let's select any of the uh, icon from here. So we can also recreate the Apple logo if you like. So we'll go ahead and recreate the Apple logo now. For recreating the Apple logo, I'll just go with the Apple logo. This is how the Apple logo looks like. I'll just save this image, save, bring it in my AI file and drop it in here itself. It's fine. I can just drop it here. I'll create a new file, selecting file, new, and 1000 by 1000 CMYK. Remember, create document. Remove the artboard, select the artboard, click backspace to remove the artboard. Select your selection tool, press your zoom tool and just select in the middle so that it comes in the middle. You can select this button in order to remove this. I'll be zooming, I'll be maximizing my file here. Oops, I think it didn't work. Okay, so with this, I'll be keeping my dashboard here. You must have been acquainted with the tools. So I will be going a bit slower now, but with more precision. Control C. Now I'm going with a different method. I'm not dragging and dropping it. I'm going with a different method. In my, you see, Control C and bring it here and press Control F to paste in front. F is always used. Don't press Control V. You can use Control V, but then again, it won't usually take it as a layer. It would rather take as an object. So remember to press Control F rather than Control V. So Control C is for copying and Control F is for pasting. In front. Oh. Okay. So that's just a second, please. So this here is the app logo which we happen to have. I'll be pressing Control plus in order to zoom in. The same method which we have done before. Select the opacity, bring it down, and then select the layer. Or you can just press this button. I'll be going with a different method here. Control 2 to lock the layer. Once this layer is locked, you can see that it's no longer editable. I can use my pen tool and then go ahead from here. So let's go for this specific curve here. So this is the part which I actually want to do for the first time. So I can click and drag towards the direction of the curve. This is the direction of the curve, you can see. Press and drag again in order to create this leaf structure. You can see that my fill is being set to white. I'll be selecting none for the fill. Press Alt and then click this button in order to cut the curve. Now, do the same thing here as well. Press and drag, and then just press and drag. Oops. Now you'll see that you have created this specific curve which you have added. Once this is done, we'll go ahead and recreate the same apple shaped logo here. I can start from this point or I can start from this point. You can take any point you like. Why you create a point in the middle? That's because if I don't create a point in the middle, Okay, let me go with this. If I don't create a point in the middle, and when I press and drag this here, you can create this specific curve here itself. But then again, you have to go with an extra step and press and hold Alt key and drag this like this. You can create that way as well, but I have created, a simple point here so as to, not do that complicated stuff with this here. That's why I did it. You can do with a single line itself, press and drag, make sure that you're only concentrating on the right side of the curve, which is this one. And then once it's done, you can press and hold Alt key from your keyboard, press this handle and then drag this down. So it works both the ways. You can, there's no specific way of going with the pen tool. It's up to your style. How do you want to go with it? Similarly, we will go ahead with this one. All right, you're most welcome, Ms. Lana. So I'll be selecting this point and dragging my curve towards the direction of the bulge here. So you can see that this is the bulge. So press and drag in order to create that specific curve towards the bulge, and then press this button and drag it down. So this is the curve which you have given. Press and hold Alt key to click this point to remove it. Press this part here and drag down again. So now you can see that I'm going to create a straight line. Why? Because the next curve which we are giving is coming from this point itself. So remember that whenever you want to give the C shape, remember to give a straight line curve, and then press, slightly drag down, and then press and hold Alt key, and then click at the point so as to cut the curve, and then go with the next one. Press and drag. Now you see that we happen to have this C-shaped curve. For all C-shaped curve, remember to keep the line straight. Click and drag. Right, so you can see that we have created, but this is more bent. So therefore, I'll be using this in order to create this more bent looking structure here. You can also use this in order to slightly bend this down. Okay, so this is a straight curve here. You can see I'm pressing it and dragging again straight to wherever the C, you can see that the C shape is there. You'll be doing that. I'll be moving ahead. Now you can just bring this in one single curve itself, but I would rather divide this into two so that it's easier for me to work around. Now you can see once it's done, I can press and hold Alt key, bring the handle down here like this in order to create the curve, and then go ahead and proceed with the next one. And then select the next curve here. You can see that the curve won't be fitting in, so I'll be pressing and holding Alt key to click the point, and then go ahead and select this one. Don't worry about this. We're going to fix this. Press and hold Alt key, press the handle, and drag up the handle like so. And do the same thing for this part as well. Control and click, and then just drag this down here like so. Make sure that the handle is straight so as to give a unique single curve here. Bring this up. Perfect. So that's the thing which we have done. We have recreated the Apple logo in this way. You can see that there is a slight wrong curve here. We can just press and hold. Alt key and click and drag this in order to give a perfect curve here. So this is how you do it. Press and hold Alt key and select this point and drag it down like so. Always remember to give very straight lines for this. Make sure that it's straight so that the curve is blunt. It's not a sharp looking curve. That's fine. Okay, this is fine. So this is what we have done. We have recreated the Apple logo, but you can see that this is one and this is one. There are two different parts which we have to select. Select your selection tool and select both of them together. Now the problem is this: if I select any one and move it, I'm not sure where exactly to fit this. It's in the Apple logo. There are two different structures here. We want to make sure that they stick to each other. They don't move anywhere apart from their actual position. So what we do is we just right click and then click group in order to make a group of both of them together. So once a group is created, once this group is created, you'll be selecting that and moving it anywhere else. So now this here is obsolete. We don't need this. So I'll be clicking this layers option, selecting the layers, unlocking the layer, and just hiding the layer from the background. Once it's done, I'll be selecting the layer all of them together, or you can just click any one as it's grouped. You will be selecting both of them anyway. So once it's done, you can bring it in center. You can expand this by pressing and holding. Don't need to press and hold shift. You can just press and press and hold shift. You have to press and hold shift and drag it up in order to create a bigger one. So the specialty of using a vector image is that no matter how, oh, there is a small problem here. You can see that this here doesn't look actually correct. So what you can do is you can use the pen tool again, press and hold control key and click the path, and then you can just select alt and then move this in order to create a better looking curve. So you can see that this handle is too large here. That's why I'll just try to make it blunt. You can press this and make it blunt as this way as well. All right, so now it's blunt. Press escape key to remove it. Don't want this. So you can see that this is how the Apple logo looks like now. So we'll be giving a color to it. So we'll be selecting the part here. I'll be selecting both of them together and then select this gradient option. So when you select both of these objects together and then give a gradient option, it's gonna give it like this. But you can see that this gradient option and this gradient option are looking a bit divorced. I want to mix match them both together. So if I want to mix match them both together, what I can do is I can just select my gradient tool here like this, make sure that both of them are selected, and then drag this point from here to here like this. So what it does is that it creates this even kind of gradient on both. You can also do this way. You can see that how it works. I'll be going with this so that it creates the gradient. I'll be selecting the darker part here and I'll be giving a gray, light gray here. Rather than dark gray, we'll give a lighter gray. And then let's go ahead and give a shadow to it. So how do you give a shadow? You have already learned this in our previous class. Select the Apple logo, select effect, stylize, select drop shadow. Okay, so that's the shadow which you have given. I'll be selecting that and I will be trying to rotate this slightly on my left hand side to give a sharp looking shadow on this part. So for that, I will be unchecking this. How do I uncheck this? Press and hold shift and then select that specific item here so as to select only this part, not this one. Once you have selected it, now you can see that you have only selected this point. What you're going to do now is you will be selecting your rotation tool and clicking the point here. That's the specific point where you will be rotating. With this path, I'll be rotating it slightly down. Oops, it's actually not working because it's in group. So let me just ungroup them first. Right click, ungroup. Okay, and then I'm going to select this point, select my rotation tool, select the point here, and from this point, I'll be rotating slightly like so. Make sure that I'm pressing Control C, Control F first, and then going ahead and doing that. So let me just explain this from the start. Right click, select ungroup, first step done. Next step is to press this icon, Control C, Control F to paste this in front. Select your rotation tool, give an anchor point, select a point where you want to move, and slightly move. Once the shape is given, select your path, shape builder tool, and select the point where you actually want to select. So I'll be rather selecting both of them together, this one and this one, both points selected together. Select your shape builder tool and click this point in order to create this specific path. Once it's done, I will be selecting this point and, oops, not this point, but I would rather select the one which I've created now. I can go to layers and select that. This is the path which is there. So I'll select this path, slightly move it to the left side. Okay, we happen to have a doubt here. Just a minute, I'll come to that point as well. Okay, sure, Mr. Jesh, we'll do that. Okay, so this is the shadow looking of the Apple logo, which you can see. Once it's there, I'm gonna press this Control X to cut, Control Z, oh, Control C to cut, copy it, Control Z, 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 Z again, or I can just do this. So just select the path, Control X to cut, and then Control V to paste. Like it's not working, okay, you can just do that. Select only the path, Control X to cut it. I'll just go back to a new, or you can just create an artboard here. You can just press paste, Control V to paste it. So you can see that the Apple section is being pasted here. I will go back and time machine, press Control Z, Z, Z again, so that this comes back completely. And then you can go back, Control C to copy, bring it here, Control F to paste in front, and you can select the gradient option here, and you can change your gradient option to anywhere you like. Let me check which one to choose. Edit gradient. I'll be selecting this point here. I'll be giving a darker black color. Selecting this point here, I'll be giving darker gray color. So once it's done, I'll be selecting my point from here, dragging it and dropping right exactly on top of the apple here. So this, we have created this part of the shadow. We'll do the same thing for this part as well. If you don't remember it, just see it now again. How do we do it? Select your rotation tool, select the anchor point, but make sure that you're pressing Control C, Control F to paste in front. Select your anchor point here and drag this down like so. Once you have done that, select your selection tool, press and hold Shift and select both the points together. Select your shape builder and select this part here. Once it's done, you'll be selecting this part, dragging it above. Select this part and drag it above. Control X to cut, bring it in the next artboard. Control V to paste, just paste it there, just keep it here. Go back to your artboard, Control Z to undo. This is the initial point where you are. And then go back, select this point, Control C to copy, Control F to paste in front. Once it's pasted, it's gonna be here. I'll be dragging this and I'll be dropping right on top. I'll be selecting this part and dragging this on top like this. So now this is how the Apple logo looks like. Now, if you want to give more gradient color to it, so I can just press this gradient button here, and not this one. We'll go with the gradient option on here. So let me just select the gradient, and this one. Let me just do that. Okay, we happen to have got this. So double click, select darker gray, double click, select black. Okay, once it's done. So this is how it looks like now. So this is how our Apple logo looks like. I will be ruling out all the edge points here. So select Control C, press and hold Shift, select. And once you have selected both of them, I will be clicking this stroke and I'll be giving stroke as none. So I'm selecting the stroke and press this button in order to give stroke as none. So this is how the Apple logo looks like. In order to make it more pristine, I will be first grouping them both together. Select and group them both together and select them. Oh, what happened? Think this one didn't get grouped. So I'll right click, group them first, and then go ahead and select them all and then group them again. So once they are grouped, I'll be selecting them, effects, stylize, drop shadow, and this is how it looks like. So this is how we have recreated the Apple logo as well. So in today's class, we have recreated two logos. One is Twitter and the another one is your Apple. If you want to export this, right click, select export selection. Select the asset name. I'll just give this as Apple. Export this to logo RE. Okay, I'm selecting the same folder, export asset, and hopefully it will be done. And this is how it looks like. So this is how it looks like now. I think I have done a small mistake here. You can see that we have not given it point-to-point precision. We have left this part here, and I have also not given. I have not also not done the stroking for this. So I'll just go ahead and rectify my mistakes here. Zooming in. All right. Now you will see. You can see that this is the part where it's not actually getting accurate. I'll be ungrouping them. Okay, this is the part. Perfect. So this is now perfect. I'll be selecting them. Make sure that the stroke is not given. Okay, so this is done. I'll be selecting the same thing here, giving the stroke as none. Perfect. I think this is the point where it's slightly getting lower. Let's see what seems to be the issue. It's perfectly fine. I think I need to move it to the right hand side. That's it. Perfect. So now it looks perfect. Now we'll be exporting it. Selecting all them together, right click, export selection. And the logo. Export it. And this is how our new one looks like. Still, there is a slight edge error. We can rectify this in our coming class as well. But you can try it for yourself and see. So this is how we have recreated the Twitter logo, and this is how we have recreated the Apple logo. I can just send them both into your group so that you can see it for yourself. Okay, so that's about it, my dear students. That was all for today's class. So in today's class, you have learned two basic tools, two most important basic tools of Illustrator. One is the pen tool through which you will be making this, how you'll be making it, how you'll be navigating it. I've shown you. The other one is your, your shape builder tool. How do you create a shape builder tool? You select all of them, all the points together, select your shape builder tool and click the point where you want to create a shape. So this is how you'll be doing it. Okay, Mr. Rashid, I'll be sending it today itself, nothing to worry. Okay, everyone, so that was all from my side. We shall be continuing this hopefully in the day after tomorrow's class. Anything's up, please do let me know. Yes, Ms. Lala, could you please put all your videos and your notes in a specific blog or special place where we can go reach easily each time, and when we need to revise the videos in the future again? Yes, sure, I will do that. I will do that, Ms. Lala. For that to be there, once this is completely done, I mean, when we have completed the portion, I will be creating a section in which I'll be posting all the links there itself so that you can go through these videos with in future for your reference, if you like. That's totally fine. That's not much of an effort. It's fine. Yes, Ms. Lala. Thank you so much. All right, everyone. So thank you so much for joining me in. For any doubts and questions, you can please post me in the group, and I'll be much happy to answer you all in them. So that was all for this class. We shall all be seeing each other hopefully in our next class. Till then, please take care, and we shall be seeing each other day after tomorrow. Thank you. Please take care. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.